hygiene.
Hello dear friends, and welcome to this new episode in which we are going to learn new vocabulary as well as some useful grammatical sentences. Stay tuned.
In this episode, we are going to talk about the following ideas. 1. Defining and non-defining relative clauses. Who, which. 2. Exercises.
Dear friends, we are going to study something important about the English sentence, which is going to be about the defining and non-defining relative clauses. But what is a relative clause? Relative clauses add extra information to a sentence by defining a noun. They are usually divided into two types.
1. Defining relative clauses. 2. Non-defining relative clauses. 1. Defining relative clauses.
Look at this sentence. The woman who lives next door works in a bank. Who lives next door is a defining relative clause. It tells us which woman we are talking about. Look at some more examples. Look out! There is the dog that bit my brother. The film that we saw last week was awful. This is the skirt I bought in the sales. We notice, dear friends, that in the last sentence we don't have a relative pronoun. We know that relative clauses are usually introduced by a relative pronoun, usually who, which, and that. But when, where, and whose are also possible. With defining relative clauses, we can use who or that to talk about people. There is no difference in meaning between these, though who tends to be preferred in more formal use. She's the woman who cuts my hair. She's the woman that cuts my hair. Let's go back to the idea that some relative clauses come without the relative pronoun and explain it. Look at the following examples. This is the skirt that I bought in the sales. This is the skirt which I bought in the sales. This is the skirt I bought in the sales. We deduce that if the relative pronoun is the object of the verb, then it can be omitted. In this sentence, skirt is the object of the verb buy. I is the subject. When the relative pronoun is the object, it can be omitted. Know that if the relative pronoun is the subject of the verb, then it cannot be omitted. This is the dog that bit my brother. This is the dog which bit my brother, but not this is the dog bit my brother. If the relative clause contains the verb be plus an adjective phrase, then it can be reduced. Be plus an adjective phrase. The man who is interested in your car will telephone later. The man interested in your car will telephone later. That was something, and not everything, about the defining relative clauses. Let's now see some examples about the non-defining relative clauses and see the differences between the two.
2. Non-defining relative clauses.
Look at this sentence. My grandfather, who is 87, goes swimming every day. Who is 87 is a non-definite relative clause. It adds extra information to the sentence. If we take the clause out of the sentence still has the same meaning.
Defining or non-defining.
Remember that defining relative clauses are used to add important information. The sentence would have a different meaning without the defining relative clause. 1. I'm going to wear the skirt that I bought in London. The defining relative clause tells us which skirt. 2. The skirt, which is a lovely dark blue color, only costs £10. The non-defining relative clause doesn't tell us which skirt. It gives us more information about the skirt.
Important notes.
1. Non-defining relative clauses can use must relative pronouns, which, whose, etc. But they can't use that, and the relative pronoun can never be omitted. The film that stars Tom Center is released on Friday. 2. Non-defining relative clauses are more often used in written English than in spoken English. You can tell that a clause is non-defining because it is separated by commas at each end of the clause. Now, let's do the following simple exercise, choosing between the two relative pronouns, who and which.
1. Which isn't drinkable. 2. Who use over 250 liters per person a day. 3. Which is just enough for basic human needs. 4. Who are usually responsible for water. 5. Which takes 3 hours.
Now, let's try to join the following sentences by the relative pronouns who and which, like the one which I did for you. 1. Mr. Hamdan is our doctor. He has got a lot of experience. Mr. Hamdan, who has got a lot of experience, is our doctor.
2. The museum, which is very interesting, is in the city center. 3. My brother, who is working in France, has sent me some very interesting emails. 4. Damascus, which has lovely traditional houses, is the capital of Syria. 5. Our new school, which was opened last year, has got a computer room. 6. Samia's uncle and aunt, who live in the UAE, are going to visit us next week.
By this, dear friends, we come to the end of this episode. We hope that everything was clear. See you. Take care.